Hey, welcome back, YouTube. Thanks for sticking around. Took a little bit of a break, New Year's, a little relax, reset, but we're back in the shop today, back on the 72 Ford Courier. For those that are just now tuning in, a lot of new recent subscribers, we appreciate y'all. 72 Ford Courier, VVT, variable valve timing, 1.8 Miata motor with a turbo, 5-speed transmission, and all the independent suspension from a Mazda Miata. Be a cool little road racy, drifty, whatever, fun, sporty thing. 300-ish horsepower, 2,000-ish, 2,200-ish weight, pounds. There we go. There's a word. About 22-ish, 100 pounds. It should be a rocket ship. As you can see, we've got a lot of new parts on here, a lot of coated parts. Yeah, it's assembly time. We're kind of bouncing around on assembly stuff because anyone that's put a big project together knows you never get all the right parts the first time. You always forget something, order something wrong, something doesn't come in, back order, blah, blah, blah. This part of it. I'm going to show you the parts that we're going to intend to install this week. We'll see where it goes. Starting off, a lot of the fuel system is here. I think I have everything, minus the sensor or two. We shall see. All this stuff is Radium. We're not affiliated with them. They just make really, really nice stuff. And I want to incorporate it on my build because, hey, buy once, cry once. Get the good stuff, never have to think about it again. This particular build, we intend to run E85, so have to do a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We'll show you what we come up with. For lines, we got their 6AN, which is equivalent of like a 3/8 PTFE lined hose. That is an essential for ethanol-based fuel system. We got these little kits here. Comes with 290s, 245s, 2 straights, and how many is it? I want to say it's 20 feet of hose. Yeah, pretty sure it's 20 feet of hose. Also from Radium, we have one of their fuel pressure regulators. Really cool the way this thing adjusts. All their fittings, little swivels. These things are really, really cool. Got some of those for that. Also a little gauge for it because, I don't know, I just like the way fuel pressure regulator gauges. I think the ECU is going to have its own gauge, but let's just have a little redundant backup there just to make sure we don't have a sensor issue. Got their fuel pulse dampener. We've already installed a 450 like Hellcat Walbro pump in this thing. TI Innovations, whatever the new name of the company is. We've installed one of those. What I've been told, our injector company, Deechworks, got some of their 1000cc injectors, and the fuel pulse dampener, it takes all of the pulses from the pump and smooths them all out. So instead of being this wave, the fuel pressure regulator is going to keep the pressure same, but it's going to have this wave of pressure coming in, and that's supposed to smooth it out. It's supposed to help with injector performance, tuning. I don't know. They said get one. I got one. It wasn't cheap, but hey, when the experts say you need it, I'd rather go ahead and get it now. That way, when I go to get it tuned, they're not mad at me because they're chasing their tail for some, me being cheap over $150 part. Radium also offers several different fuel filters. This is their 10 micron with a cool little billet mount. Also picked up Motion Raceworks bypass E85 sensor or sensor holder. Even though we intend to probably 99% of the time run this thing on ethanol, there may be times where we can't get it, or maybe the ethanol content isn't that good of what we do get. It'll all be pumped because drum stuff is just, let's face it, it's too expensive. This thing is going to be tuned on Amp Performance DIY Auto Tune ECU, which is capable of doing flex fuel. Yeah, let's just go ahead and tune it for both. We're going to do it for pump and E85, 2 different boost settings. It'll all work out really nice. I'm looking forward to getting that in there. Just one extra little, I don't know, just neat little option. We're going to use a GM style ethanol sensor, and while it is 3/8 diameter, just like the hose is, I have heard that it can be restrictive. What this motion piece does is the E85 sensor will come in the top here, and the fuel will flow through the sensor, but it also has a bypass where it can come around the sensor, so this doesn't become a choke point. Once again, do I really need it? I don't know. I would really hate to run out of fuel, lean this motor up, and then have to go get another one or rebuild this one just because I didn't spend whatever that was, $120. And my thought behind this was, if I get the sensor, I'm going to have fittings on either side of that to fit the sensor to the 6AN. And also I'm gonna have a way to mount it. So this solves both problems. Seems like the fittings themselves were like $25 a piece for the PTFE style ones, the good ones I wanted. Yeah, well, that's 50. I think that sensor holder was 120 with the fittings on it. So I don't know. I've already spent way too much. I can't even consider this thing a budget thing anymore. That was the original intention. I really blame it on Taylor next door. He's the one that messed that up for me. But yeah, let's spend a little extra money. I don't want to melt this engine down just because I was being cheap, even though I'm probably gonna melt it down eventually anyway. We also got our turbo elbow, downpipe, and charge pipes back from Harris Custom Coatings. Those are looking beautiful. Hopefully get those installed with some heat management stuff that we'll talk about. And nice little oil cap here from Courier Works. Now, unfortunately, this is a friend of ours company. Unfortunately, they just recently went out of business, but they made some really nice quality parts, and I'm gonna run them. Not only their parts, but their stickers. Even though they're not in business, let's support the ones that support you. Also, a few other things that we've picked up: some brake hoses, catch can, a few other little odds and ends. I'm not going to get overzealous. I only have 3 days I can work this week on this project. 3-ish, 3.5 maybe. Baby steps. Be realistic. If we can get the battery tray mounted, that'd be awesome. If we can get the fuel system done, or at least everything we have installed, I'm sure there's a fitting that I have forgotten or got wrong. Whatever. We can get most of that on, at least mount it up. Progress is progress. First thing, we got to get the bed pulled off so that we can access all this here in the back. And that might be it for today. It's already rocked on pretty late. Had to do, normal big boy job stuff. And got to split a little early. We'll get done what we can. One of the neat little styling cues about these old 70s mini trucks is most of them had these little bed hooks, which makes it way easier to pick the beds up when you need to take one off. Decided to put the filter and the E85 content sensor over here on the passenger side frame rail, and it just works out really nice because the sending unit will be here, so the lines will just travel down the rail, and on this motor the fuel rail is on the passenger side. It all works out. Just a matter of drilling and tapping some holes, mounting it up, and I don't have the sensor yet, but going by the dimensions that came with the tech drawing here, the sensor will clip into here and it'll hang off to this side. I don't know, I feel like it looks nice having them side by side. We'll basically have 2 whip hoses to the front, 2 to the back. I don't know, just made the most sense to me. Planning is so essential, especially on any vehicle like this that's small and gonna have a bunch of stuff packed into the engine bay. And I'll admit, I messed up a little bit. I mounted the fuel pulse dampener, drilled and tapped the strut tower. It looked really nice, had it all bolted up. Then I totally forgot about our coolant pipe, which would live in the exact same area. Oh well, let's adapt, overcome. The bolts that came with the dampener are M6 1.0. There was a bracket right here. We can see we repurposed it. It held this little vacuum line with a M6 1.0 hole right there. I just turned the bracket around a little bit, bolted it through there, and this will just go right back up under there and zip tied to the line. Well, happy little accident. I'm going to use a 120 degree. This isn't a PTFE fitting. This is just one I had. Kind of mock up here. Give me an idea of the correct direction. This will come around this way, up under the manifold, and right there you can see I got a 45 degree into the end of our rail. That'll work out good for us. Plumbing, it'll route something to the effect of out of the sending unit, through the filter, down the rail. It'll pop up here to the dampener to the front side of the rail. Obviously feed our injectors. Got us a nice little gauge on here, and we'll come out with a 90 right there, and it'll come back down around to our regulator. Sneaking in down here on the bottom of the Firewall fuel pressure regulator, it'll have the in side on the front, the out is on the bottom, and as you can see, I already made one little lineup for us. As you probably noticed, forgot to talk about it, but went ahead and installed it. Got a dual port catch can. This came from Amazon. I believe it's a Synergy brand. Eric at Queen City, he recommended it. Had some good luck with them. A couple nut certs in the Firewall. As you can see, we centered it up on our little bead rolled section. That'll look good right there. Got to have these on turbo applications. That's also why we ported the manifold just to make sure this thing has plenty of breathing so it doesn't start pushing seals out of it. All the hoses here are going to be just normal AN -10. You can see we got one hooked up here, and the other one will come out, go across over to this side. I didn't have the correct fitting. I really need like 120 or 150 degree fitting, so this comes this direction, because right now it would come across the front of the motor. I don't know. I don't think that'll look nearly as good. I'm gonna get like 120 degree, so it'll come straight across. The lines can run together. We'll try to plan this out the best we can. We talk about little accidents, mount something in the wrong place. Sometimes you get lucky. You mount something in a really good spot and didn't realize it. I knew I wanted to run the factory strut bar because it's super beefy and looks really nice. Look at our clearance right there. It's like 3/16 of an inch to that banjo. That's going to work out really well. This isn't truly tight, so it'll actually pull back towards the firewall and give us even a little more clearance. That worked out really well. That could have easily crashed into it and not worked. Even though this firewall is bead rolled, it has the internal stiffener plate that we made for it. With manual brakes, you have to exert more foot pressure, which has the possibility of flexing that firewall a little bit. It's going to work out really nice that we can build a little stop right off the back of this bracket to the master cylinder. Yeah, it'll be nice and clean and hidden. You win some, you lose some. I'll take that win. Now we got to start building some hoses. Built one, honestly, just for practice. It's the first PTFE hose I built. Made sure Eric came over, made sure I wasn't boogering it up. Now I feel confident building more of these with you. And yeah, we'll go over those, and we'll also go over a regular AN line. Just little differences, real quick. Here are the two styles of fittings we're going to be assembling today. There are other styles out there, but these are going to be your most common in the aftermarket automotive world. Your standard AN, which is going to look like this. That'll thread onto there. And this is the AN style for a PTFE line, which when it comes apart, you have this little ferrule or olive, whatever you want to call it, which creates, if you put it together correctly, creates a compression style fitting on the line. Here's what the line looks like for the PTFE. So this is the black nylon, but it still is steel braided. You can see it right there. And also you can see the plastic PTFE lining. This is the hose that's going to be good for pretty much all your different fuels, chemicals. I don't know anything this doesn't stand up to other than, extreme heat, obviously. And here is your normal AN line. Now, obviously these are two different sizes, -10, -6, but you get the gist. Also nylon coated, also steel braided, but just standard rubber on the inside. There's a couple different ways you can cut these. They make specific shears. You can take it and chop the top there. But these are well worn. They're not working too well for us today. The other way of doing it is just 4.5 inch grinder. Make the line, you cut it off. You always want to use tape first on both styles. That way it keeps the nylon and the steel braid from fraying everywhere. Mark it with the tape, cut it off. Obviously the 4.5 inch grinder is going to create more debris, but it's a nice clean cut. These, when it snips it, it'll actually oval shape this, so you have to get down there in a screwdriver and wallow it back out. It's which evil you want to deal with that day. I don't mind this because I can just take and blow the worst of this out, rinse it out with some brake parts cleaner. We're good to go. We don't have to worry about it, making a funny shape, do anything silly like that. Once you made the cut, peel that back off, and you'll see there'll be a little bit of fray. Some people say you can leave the tape, but I have seen in higher heat situations where the tape will start to leak out of it. That's not really cool. Spin apart your fitting. You'll put your fitting on the hose, and it's tight. You just gotta work it down on there. Try not to bang against it with anything hard. Your first instinct is let's cram this thing on with the tape by banging it on the table. That's not ideal. Get it on there which is hard to see, until it meets the stop right below the threads. You have it bottomed out. You're gonna take your trusty assembly lube. Some people like to use silicone. I found that this always works really well for me. And make sure you get it on the threads as well as the rubber, because all this down here is also threading into the rubber. We give this a little spritz too. You know, I don't think you can have too much lube in this situation. We'll go ahead and kind of get her started. Yeah, we'll get her started by hand right there. A set of aluminum jaws or soft jaws for a vise. This thing, it makes it so much easier. These are from Summit. They're not terribly expensive. I would say get the best ones you can afford, because the magnets in these are a little small. Makes it a little hard to wrestle with sometimes, but we'll make it work. Thread this guy in as far as we can by hand. And you want to keep an eye on the hose right here and make sure that threading this in isn't pushing the hose back out. So we just keep a little eye on that as we go. Yeah. We just thread it in. You're also watching your fitting, making sure when you get up close, you don't want to over tighten this, because you easily can. All this stuff's aluminum. Get that to a snug, good to go. Now, an Allen wrench, that would be preferred. I don't have any of this big. Just be careful. Take your time. Now we have standard Allen fitting. Same basic, sort of similar process for the PTFE lines. We'll take the tape off, but one thing is very important with these is the order of operations when putting them together. You're going to spin off the collar, and the collar has to go on before the little olive or ferrule. If you don't, I don't know if you'll ever get it on there. So we'll get that guy on, and when you do this, it's going to try its best to poke you in the finger. Once that's slid on, we'll take the little ferrule, and it has to go directly over the PTFE, but under the steel braiding. And another note, you can see it's kind of conically shaped down. That goes on first, and there's a little tiny stop. It's going to be almost impossible to see on camera, but you'll trust me, it kind of really only goes on one way. Pop that on, push it till it bottoms out. Take our little bit of lube there, and a little bit on here as well. Push the two together. Oop, it pops and bottoms out. Then we'll put her in our vise. Once we get that started by hand, we'll get the incorrect size. Try that again. We'll screw it on. Now, when you're screwing this on, it will push the hose back out of the collar here, and what that's doing, it's really drawing up the collar onto this assembly, because this assembly is bottomed out on the PTFE, which is the most important part. So don't get freaked out with these when it pushes it back. Go till it's kind of snug. Yeah, there we go. Good solid connection. Yep, it's not going anywhere. Once we start making lines, I always like to start with the long lines first, just in case we mess up. We can cut them down and make them the short lines. And you see, we put a little curve in here. That's just to give it a little slack to take the stuff on and off. So you don't want it just banjo string tight here. A little slack there. Tap the frame, 1032, stainless button head Allen. Rubber isolated P-clamps. That'll just work its way down. Second one here. Make sure we get some good clearance on our cross member. Just keep working our way forward. This one, as you can see, it goes right up there to the fuel pressure regulator. This one's still loose because we need one more fitting to go up there, but it'll go up that direction. That'll look nice. There's a few different ways you can secure these fuel lines. I mean, you could use like the nice billet clamps that hold them, you know, side by side. This is just cheap, easy, safe. It's not going to rub anything. It's going to hold it in place. It's going to do its job. It's like I said, this isn't really a budget thing, but I mean, we're not getting crazy with billet line clamps here. If you're anything like me, you're going to miscalculate or forget, or you'll get in here and realize, well, I bought a 45, but a 60 would really work better. Yeah, we got to that point. I've got to stop on the plumbing for a minute because I've used up what I have, and I don't want to sacrifice some angles just to use what I have sitting around. We're not really in a deadline for this thing. We'll go ahead and get some proper fittings just to finish that out. We'll be back with that. Put in an order last night from Summit Racing, and we're in North Georgia. Summit's in South Georgia. Usually you can get the stuff next day. For some reason, everything I ordered is all coming out of Ohio. It is what it is. There's also a bad storm coming. Who knows if I'll get those parts this week. So we might have to just pivot and let's get some more parts off the shelf. These old, ugly, cracked up, crusty brake lines. Oh, not going to cut it. We got us a set of Russell stainless braided lines. These things look sweet. Went ahead and installed these. Cool thing to note, on the passenger side rear, the distribution block is actually made onto the brake line. Or, you know, it screws into it, but this is part of the system. The factory line is made into it. This one screws into it, but you would have to have that either way. Russell is the only one I found that for sure has this in the picture, so that's why I went with it. Peeping under the front here, one of the problems we have with the modified steering knuckle here, we're getting so much steering angle now. That's not all of it, but that's all I can get with one. There we go. We're getting so much steering angle, even with these low offset wheels. We're touching the control arm right here a little bit. And as you can see, I've trimmed off this lip and I welded that up, but we're still getting a little bit of rub right there. Solution to that, we're going to run some slip-on wheel spacers. Problem with that, you see these studs? No, they're not quite long enough. I mean, here's a nut on here just to hold the rotor on, and for a visualization. If we're going to run maybe like a 18 or 20 mil slip-on spacer, you can see we don't have very much meat here at all when you count the thickness of the wheel and the spacer. Just, it's not going to cut it. We picked up these ARP studs, 1007719. That's going to really help us out here. I mean, just went ahead and popped one in. Look at that difference. Here's a side-by-side. Yeah, we're going to be running a 20 mil spacer, which is just shy of an inch. Then we'll have a little extra. Might have to cut these off to go up under the center caps, but we'll have plenty of nut engagement. I'll give you a quick little rundown on at least how I like to install these. This would be really hard with the dust shield in place. Without it here, makes this a lot easier. We'll just take, and now I like to do it with the rotor on because it just makes it a little bit thicker. Go ahead and put a nut in place to hold the rotor, stable. Pick which stud we want. Go ahead and smack it out. Oop. Fish it out of the back. Won't need that anymore. Got a new stud, and I like to give it just a little bit of lubrication. Fish that in from the back side, and then I have this little installation tool. As you can see, it's got a conical seat on this side for our conical lug nut, and on the back we got a little roller bearing. You can press this in with I've seen people do it with 2 washers with some grease between them. I've seen people take the lug nuts without this little shoulder, flip it backwards and run them on. I mean, none of that I would say is wrong. It's just not the best way to do it. If you're at a track, you just do what you what you have to do. So we get that started, and I'm kind of wiggling it there, making sure it's square to the hub. And also I'm kind of turning this, and I'm feeling where the old knurl was. I'd like to go back in that same knurl section. Get that snugged up. We'll get our impact, and we're feeling it from the back side here. Everything feels good. And I've got my finger on the back of the stud, make sure that nothing feels funny. And then we go till we hear the impact grunt. You can take a peek behind there, just make sure it's all the way in. And yeah, spin it back out. I grease this thing up every few studs, maybe every 4 studs, like a little shot of grease down there. But yeah, makes it so much simpler. Last one and we're done. We got almost all the plumbing finished up. The shipment came in with our 150-degree fitting here, our dash 10 for the vent. See, that runs across there really nicely, and we have a clamp to hold those two together. Nothing is tight and finalized. We still have to take the intake off one more time to run the harness through there, but you get the idea. Kind of like pseudo mock-up stage. Over here we have our oil line. Once again, nothing over here is tight either. That's going to run through there. The water cool line, tied it together right here. This is all going to get fire sleeve, and that'll all get tied together. That'll look really nice. And you can see turbo manifold, turbo elbow, lots of heat. We don't want heat all over our lines. As you can see here, we have not a whole lot of space. Let's talk some heat management. Back in the day, your gold foil tape, that's kind of all you had for heat management. Or at least that's all that was available to us, like normal consumers. And the regular like fiberglass sleeving for lines, yeah, that's kind of all we used. It's come a long way. Check out what they're making now. This is from Design Engineering, or DEI. This is what they call their floor and tunnel shield. Check this stuff out. Really cool looking corrugated, I guess you'd call it, aluminum. They call it a polyglass, so not fiberglass, which is great because we all hate getting itchy from working with that stuff. And the coolest thing about this stuff is, it'll probably take two hands to peel it back, but this actually has an adhesive backing. We're gonna cut this stuff up to size and see if we can make some heat shields. First thing we're gonna look at protecting is our firewall. Will this cause a problem? Maybe not, but you know, we don't want it discoloring that and putting a lot of radiant heat into the firewall. We did a lot of work here. I'd rather have a nice, tasteful heat barrier than have that all discolored. Used our favorite arts and crafts supplies here, just poster board and masking tape. Yeah, we're gonna make a nice little heat shield for that. We're gonna go around the corner because as you can see right there, the manifold, that's gonna be pretty hot as well. We got it curved to go around the master cylinder, or excuse me, the steering column and the master cylinder right there. We'll trim this stuff up. One of the cool things about this stuff is because of the corrugation, you can just pick a row of peaks or valleys and use that. I mean, I drew it out with a Sharpie, but you just kind of, it helps you keep an eye on stuff as you trace it out. Now I found, it says that you can use scissors or shears. My scissors didn't stand a chance against this stuff. I ended up using some just regular tin snips. Turned out really well. I just work around the edges and just take a minute round the corners. That just, it makes it look so much more professional. Even on the bottom that you'll never ever see, it just looks a lot better to me. And it's because of the aluminum, it's real easy. I just took and bent it over the edge of my fab bench. Holds its shape really nicely. Yeah, that'll look really cool right there. Peeled off the protective backing, stuck it in place. It looks so stinking good. I mean, it's OEM-ish, if you ask me. Real happy with the way that turned out. Bought way too much, but hey, we'll use it more on this or next project. Went ahead and threw on some fire sleeve on the hoses here, water and oil. Being so close to the turbine housing here, directly above the exhaust manifold and elbow, I felt like, I don't know, it's a good safety measure. Keep those protected. Obviously they'll get tied up and tightened up in time. One thing at a time here. Now, master cylinder, plastic reservoir, that's never gonna last that close. Have you ever seen this NICOP material I use for brake hard lines? It's super easy to work with, flares really nicely. I love this stuff. But this is just a little test piece. We'll screw in place. You can see, I mean, that's an inch maybe from the edge of that. Any way you turn it, I think that's just going to be too close. And any tighter of a radius, you risk kinking it, and that's bad in itself. Now, if you see on this side of the master cylinder, I can't remember exactly why it has a banjo fitting 90 degrees on this side. Something to do with the Miata chassis. But I got thinking, I still had the old master cylinder. What if we spun it around on this side? And go ahead and, spoiler alert, I've already tested it. We need a little shorter banjo bolt. But look how much more clearance that is. We could take these suckers, rotate them back like that, direct them back towards the firewall and down. Yeah, this is going to work a lot better. I'm going to hit up old C.O. Kearns and see if he's got another one of these. I think this is going to be our solution for that. We're still going to have to build a nice little protector there, but This will gain us a little space, make it a little easier on us. All right, we're wrapping up Friday here. Ran out of propane. Got some good work done on the Courier. I just kind of buckled down and just picked away. I didn't film a whole lot of this stuff because a lot of it's crawling up under the dash or being bent over in the engine bay, figuring out fittings and hardware and all that tedious, time-consuming stuff it takes to finish a project like this and to make it nice. I mean, it's not a super high-end show car or whatever, but we want it to be reliable. We want it to be safe. We want to get the right fasteners, the right fittings. You know, buy once, cry once. Going over some of the things we did, we're going to start at the back. And I want to say, I don't remember your name, but one of the YouTube subscribers pointed out something on the fuel sending unit here that I didn't even think of. And it's a great point, and we went ahead and we fixed it before there was a problem. Looking at the fuel pump sending unit here, the way it was before is we had our black tube to the white tube. The white tube extended all the way down and just pointed straight down like that. It's exactly how they told me to put it together in the instructions. I never even thought twice about it. But luckily, whoever you are out there, had a great point. This is a big fuel pump. It's a 450 Hellcat pump, which is going to be returning a bunch of fuel back to the tank when we're not just on the wood, right? Well, if you've ever seen fuel, like if you've ever used like a transfer pump or something, you've seen fuel shoot out. It's aerated. All that aerated fuel was going to be shot right down, right next to this sock. And the likelihood of sucking that aerated fuel up is pretty high. And I could totally see that being a problem. I mean, the gentleman that mentioned it, he said he had an issue with it. And yeah, I totally believe it. Our little fix, I don't know what he did. What I came up with, I cut the tube a little shorter. I got this piece of Nycop. Come down, bend it around 90 degrees. Now, the fuel is just going to shoot off to the side of the tank, hopefully to keep the majority of the aeration away from this. I thought about bringing the return somewhere else in the tank, but the way this sending unit is designed, the only stabilization for this pump is this tube and this tube being zip tied together to keep the assembly from swinging around. And as much autocross and road racing and drifting we're going to be doing, I can see this thing wanting to move around a little bit probably. At the minimum, as the fluid's moving around, I can see it putting pressure on it. And not having that tube to hold it on as a return might be an issue. I mean, I could just leave the tube there and put the return somewhere else. But I think this is going to solve a potential problem that wasn't even a problem yet. We're going to try it. If we have an issue in the future, we know, at least where to start looking. I still have to get some different zip ties to put on here. I'm going to get the zip ties that have the little metal retaining clip in them. Just, I don't know, I feel like they're a little better seeing that they're going to be submerged in fuel their entire lives. But all the plumbing's done on the truck now. And you'll notice, this will go here. You'll notice these lines are a little long. And the reason being, I didn't want it to be, pulled completely taut. I wanted a little slack so that if I ever have to drop the tank, I can drop the tank and these will have a little bit of give on them. And I can sneak my hand up in here and take these fitting loose. I mean, I could take them loose up there, but I don't know. I'd rather undo it back here if I could. They're just a little, maybe 2 inches longer than they're supposed to be. They'll just have a little curve in them, a little retaining tab there. Yeah, should be good. Once we get our zip ties on, this can go back together. Looking here up under the dash, a few little modifications. Of course, we had to pull this whole assembly back out because, why wouldn't we? This truck is going from, the Miata was all power brakes, vacuum assist. We're going to manual. Had to make my own little rod here, and that was just a matter of finding a bolt that was the correct size, whittling that down so it fits in the master cylinder properly. The clutch master, same thing here. Well, it wasn't vacuum assisted, but had to shorten it down just because of the angle of the firewall. Now we have clutch and brake. That's pretty cool. Gas pedal. Before, the rod came up and it ended like right here. And you'll see in a minute why that wouldn't work, but I had to extend the rod up, welded that in. Now, cable's hooked up. We actually have throttle pedal. Just got to slap the column back in, and I think this will be done again. Moving here up under the hood, this is the most exciting area because at least it looks the closest to being finished. Obviously, we don't have any clamps. We're still missing spark plugs, coil packs, wiring harness, but we're getting a lot more parts on here and it's filling out. It's already getting tight. We talked about our little heat shield here. Went ahead and made us one for the side as well, and I'm super happy with the way that turned out. It's really cool. All it is just, this was some 40 thou aluminum that I bent up. I'll just set this out of the way for a second. Bent this up, made us a little tab to bolt in there, drilled and tapped that. Right here, got a little tab that goes down to, well, I'll set this out of the way so you can see better. Made our master cylinder stop we talked about. I welded not a nylock, I welded an all metal lock nut here so that we have adjustability for our brake pedal stop there. Weld that on the side and tap the top. Now that'll be how we retain this guy. Leaving this loose because I'm not happy with the hardware I have for our elbow here. I'm gonna go to the hardware store Monday and get some better hardware for that. But you get the idea. Now we have a shield all the way to the top of the cap. This bolt right here is a little long. It won't be touching. The one we're going to have is probably 3/16 shorter. Be a nice little gap there. Yeah, I think between all of this stuff and having the heat coating on there, which is supposed to reduce temperatures, I think we won't have a problem. I hope we won't have a problem. How about that? All of our fire sleeves. Oh, and like we talked about, throttle cable. That's this guy right here. Before, it would have came out like right here, right next to this turbo elbow. Yeah. Had to move it up. That's fine. Reuse the stock cable. I think this is one of the very few things I didn't have to modify other than cutting off a few little sleeves. All that works really nice. And this is all just set up here just for my personal satisfaction. I love seeing all this texture coating. Harris Custom Coatings really showed out on this stuff. Did that as well. Yeah, it's all coming together. The strut bar, I actually had to shorten it. When I put this front suspension up under the truck with the frame and the cab bolted down, I tacked everything into place, and I put the strut bar on when I welded it, or when I tacked it. And I think our issue is one side of the strut bar is the holes are slotted, and I think it might have been all the way at the, let's see, think about this, may have been all the way at the inside of the slots, and then when I welded everything up, I think it pulled the strut towers. I think I cut a 1/4 inch out of the bar. It pulled the strut towers together just a touch, just enough where I couldn't get the bar on anymore. That was just a simple matter of cutting it, welding it back together. This is real thick wall tube. Wasn't any problem. And if you notice, this one area here is real thin. I thought that may be, I don't know, it just seems really weak. Like, I don't know why they did it so thin right there. I don't know if that's a crash thing, but just went ahead and welded a little reinforcement in that. Make it just a little bit stiffer. But with all our lines together here, the piping's looking cool. Yeah, getting pretty dang excited. There is still a metric ton of work to do on this. Brake hard lines. Obviously, we have the soft lines on there, but we have to have the soft line retainers for the front. We need clutch line. We need, I mean, honestly, listing it all off is seeming a little overwhelming already. But, pick up some sensors. We got to go over to DIY Auto Tune, the people that are going to be doing the ECU in it. We got to pick up, let's see, O2 or wideband, intake air temperature. We're going to get their really cool coil pack setup thing. That's why we left this area, the engine, clear from all of our hoses and wires for the most part. They have a really cool coil pack setup right here. Upgraded units. Yeah, looks really nice. Supposed to be high performance. DIY Auto Tune, aka Amp EFI. They specialize in, they do everything. Their ECUs can control, to my knowledge, anything. But they specialize in the NA&B Miatas. That's kind of their bread and butter. Where they started, they say it's a big upgrade. Why not? We're already about 10 times past our initial budget. Yeah, let's go ahead and spend some more money while we're at it. Last bit of plumbing we have to do. I did forget about the power steering. that's pretty important. Here on the side of our power steering pump, hardline factory came out and went straight that way, was about another 1.5 inches longer, and was pointing right at our turbo drain. That's not going to work. Luckily we had a second one of these fittings, so I cut this one short, took the fitting with the 90, kind of hard to see, but I welded it on and pointed that straight down because we're going to run it around to the passenger side over there. It's really hard to see down in here, but our water cooling line for the turbo comes right down here to the lower water neck housing. Factory had a big O-ring fitting that went back to the heater core, which we don't need. Welded that up, welded a -6 nut on that, and it had another line coming off the front, welded that up. We don't need that where we're going. Got to figure out a power steering cooler, power steering filter. I'm going to reuse the stock reservoir, mount it probably on the passenger side. We're going to have to wing it. We have to wait till we get everything here and figure out which way is going to be best. Fabrication on the fly. I've already started making a list of the things we need. Some clips, some fittings, some fasteners. Like I said, brake hardline stuff. Man, yeah. It's never ending. But lists are how you get this stuff done. At least for me, if I don't have a list of, let's say, 3 tasks, because we do it for Dale, I take like 3 tasks. This is everything we're going to need. Let's knock these 3 tasks. I don't think about mounting the seats. I don't think about mounting the wiring harness. I don't think about the fuel filler neck thing. Until it's time for it, I don't even think about that stuff. Make tasks, make a list of things we need. If we get to a task and we don't have what we need, we'll move to the next of the 3. And if we get to all 3 and we're still out of stuff, there's plenty of things to do. But for now, we're calling it a night, we're calling it a weekend. We'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking around. Like, share, subscribe. I don't know what the next video is going to be. We're waiting on parts for this thing. I got to do some more rust repair to Eric's. That's not, it's fun stuff, but it's the same stuff I did in the last video. I'm not going to bore you all with that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure something out fun. Stick around. We'll see you.